What's up, hockey fans and hockey fanatics out there? Welcome to the Hockey Lounge, episode 5. We're back for 2 episodes this week. I've been asked for this episode to happen. A lot of Leaf fans, burning their jerseys, putting flags around their garbage at the end of their driveway, packing up their Leaf gear. Guys on the 401 ramp ready to jump, a.k.a. the Okane ready to jump. It's a week ago tonight that the Leafs got knocked out after leading a 3-1 series to your Montreal Canadiens. So, again, welcome to the Hockey Lounge. If you want to become a member, hit that subscribe button below or follow us on Instagram, the Hockey Lounge. First off, thank you to all the viewers, subscribers out there. We had Christy Piero on last week, and he rocked it with Paul Santi. A lot of views, a lot of subscribers, so thank you to everybody out there. So before I introduce you to the Leaf Nation tonight, the Leaf Fanatics, this is what's going down tonight. So I have a little bit of a rage here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And these gentlemen that are on my podcast tonight, they're diehard Leaf fans. We have one gentleman here that's been a Leaf fan for, 70 years, I think, maybe.
Man, I'm not that old.
for almost 50 years. So let me give you a timeline of the Toronto Maple Leafs. 2014, Brendan Shanahan hired as president of ops. GQ, good-looking guy. Never a president of an organization before, came from the NHL front office. Everybody's excited and giddy about that. 2015, Mike Babcock comes aboard. Okay? The Leaf Nation's going to feel some pain. Those were exact words that he said in that post conference or the press conference. Things went somewhat okay. Leafs made the playoffs, whatnot. Higher expectations. Matthews, Marner, starting to build the core. A couple of early exits, but not really high expectations. Everybody was just happy that they're making the playoffs. So things started to get a little sour with Leaf Nation and the Toronto Maple Leafs. You started to hear some rumblings with Babs and Dubas. So Dubas got hired in 2018. Stuart Little, Mr. Analytics himself, came in, right? But instead of getting guys with balls the size of church bells, he looked at analytics. He looked at, all the numbers were going to get him to the promised land. And every year they take the Leaf Nation's soul and they crush it every year, right? Then you have Mitchell Marner and Austin Matthews, okay? You have one superstar that has a porn stash, okay?
I believe they call
the other guy,
Sanchez, Nick.
The other guy decides to do a lid before the playoffs. Okay? So this is the new generational hockey player. Okay? He likes to be coddled. Don't scream at me. Don't bench me. I want to play hockey. Doesn't work like that. Right? If you look at the teams that are winning in the playoffs right now, every 50-50 puck, that team's winning. They're blocking shots with their face. They're blocking shots everywhere. So I'm not even a Leaf fan, but I'm mad because my buddies are hurting every year. Their souls are getting taken away. So how are we going to change this? How is Leaf Nation going to change it? Because Matthews and Marner remind me of 2 university guys, okay? Right? They don't want to go in the dish pit, roll up their sleeves, and wash dishes. I want to go to university. I can't have a part-time job. That's the new generational hockey player, okay? It's work ethic. It's getting your hands dirty. It's wanting to play hard, okay? That first game against Montreal when Jeff Petrie, I believe it was, behind the net, grabbed Matthews and started tossing him around like the rag doll, and he was laughing. What you have to do is you have to punch that guy in the face and show him that I'm showing up for this series. It's early in the series. Take a 2-minute penalty. Who cares? Show that you have the balls. Show that you're going to play dirty. Because you have high expectations. People are counting on Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews. Mitch Marner guys, I don't know if you know this, was on the power play PP1 for 60 chances in the regular season. He did not have one goal. Plus the power plays in the playoffs, not one goal. So, my last remark about the Toronto Maple Leafs. Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews won the Cup 3 years into their career. Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, 4 years into their career, they won a Cup. We're into 5 years now with this core. Not even past the first round. So for everybody out there tonight, we have 5 guests in the lounge tonight. We have Julian, Lenny, second tour of duty. He's back, right? He was back when the Leafs were up. The Leafs were up 3-1 when he was on last time.
And I was shooting my mouth off for no good reason.
We have Peter. We have Okane. I think this is his third tour of duty, right? The Italian old dog. Watch out, Jeff O'Neill. He's going to take your spot on overdrive. Right. Then we got Fab up top. So, gents, welcome to the lounge tonight.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Thanks for having us.
Good stuff. So that was my rant on the Leafs. Agree or disagree. But let's start off with this, gents, tonight. The core, okay? What are your thoughts on the core? The core, when I talk about the core, I talk about Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and Tavares. Those 4 players take up $40.4 million of salary, okay? And we'll start from bottom up here. Julian, your thoughts on the core?
Thanks, Nick. I thought it might be fitting here to maybe just wear my sad Leaf fan hat here. This is how I feel about the core right now. Okay,
that's a good one.
They need help.
Yeah. Help.
They need, okay?
That's a good one.
But they give me odds on that.
Can you guys hear me? Okay, I just want to make sure the mic is still here.
Yeah, you can hear you. Yeah.
All right. Well, guys. Let me tell you something. So I just want to throw out some stats here to you guys, okay? Give you guys some analytics here, okay? I'm looking through my paper bag here, so hopefully I can see it. So you talked about, Crosby and Malkin. You talked about Kane and Toews. I looked at their playoff stats, okay? And you know what? I'm going to take this off because it's bothering me a bit.
Yeah, no problem.
I looked at their playoff stats, okay? And I did a little analytic analysis over here. Crosby, on average, 174 playoff games, 192 points on average for 1.1 point per game. Malkin, average 1.02 points per game. Kane, 1.0 point per game. Jonathan Toews, 0.9 points per game. I even did Ovi and Backstrom, okay? Ovi, 0.96 points per game in the playoffs. Backstrom, 0.84. Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, they're tied at 0.75. At $11 million, I'm sorry, that is not good enough, period. They're great players. They're generational players. They're talented. And I'm sure a lot of people would love to have them on their team. But at $11 million, I'm sorry, that is not acceptable. Okay? Call it what you want. Bad luck, pressure in Toronto. I don't know what pressure there is. It's COVID. There's no media. Everybody's doing Zoom calls these days. Okay? So that's a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, I mean, like it's just like it gets to a point. It's just like, how many excuses could we make for the guys, right? Like they got to start performing. They gotta hike up their skirts and start fucking producing. And I'm sorry, it's not acceptable.
Yeah, that's why I made this podcast on YouTube, not for kids tonight, gents. So there you go. So Lenny, again, I know that we were on 2 weeks ago and the Leafs were up 3-1, and we were already talking about the Winnipeg series, and I watched that podcast a couple of times over and over again.
People keep reminding me what I was saying about Toronto playing Winnipeg and all that.
Yeah,
and, what Julian said too. I mean, he makes a lot of good points, but you look at the teams that those guys were playing on. They had a good cast around them as well, okay, that gave them the opportunity to get to the open spots or what have you. I mean, let's face it, Toronto didn't have. They went and got Simmons. He did nothing. Thornton was always a step behind. He did nothing.
They barely played Simmons. Sorry, I didn't cut you off, Lenny.
Okay, go ahead. No, I mean,
Yeah.
they kept putting him on the power play, the first power play, and all that. And it's just, as Leaf fans, it's so disheartening to see the shit that we got to go through year in and year out. I mean, back in the day when they were bad, we knew they were bad. Now, you see a light at the end of the tunnel, and all of a sudden that tunnel gets caved in. It's gone again. Now, where do we go from here? What happens? Now people are saying, get rid of Marner, trade, don't keep Tavares protected. Maybe Seattle picks him up, what have you. But if you do that, what happens? You might not even make the playoffs. You lose guys that can produce the points. I don't know. You got to get some more character players that can help these kids out. That are more than a Wayne Simmons or Joe Thornton. Maybe guys that are maybe 10 to 15 years a little younger than these guys. Maybe you have. Sorry.
No, see, the problem is with that, Lenny, is the thing is that you have so much money tied up with these players.
I understand that.
Tough. It's tough to create that bottom six.
So maybe you might have to give up maybe a Nylander, even though he was the best player in the playoffs for Toronto, and everybody shit on this guy throughout the whole year and the year before that. He was the only one that showed up and played the same way he always did through the regular season. He was trying to make something happen. The other guys were playing scared.
Right.
That's what I had seen. They were playing scared. So maybe you give up a Nylander because his value is that higher now, and you can get something in return. And I remember a caller on one of the talk shows made a good point. He says, why not go after Tkachuk from Calgary? Because Tkachuk is from Arizona too, like Austin Matthews. They played on the same line for a number of years. And that Nylander was born in Calgary. He's a Calgary boy.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, something has to change.
Yeah. So we'll get into what has to change. So Peter, I know you've been chomping at the bit. What the
It's been tough. It's been tough. I'm a diehard. I'm constantly reading what they're doing, what their thoughts are. I spend a lot of time just dissecting. I love the sport, but I'm just a diehard. I mentioned before we came on here, I told my wife yesterday, I know what I want to do when I die. I want to get cremated so I can get in an urn and put me in the Scotia Arena, and hopefully at some point I'm going to watch them win the goddamn cup. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, though. But you know what? This is tough. The core, it's a tough pill to swallow, because I think we have 4 really, really good players. And you mentioned earlier, and kind of set me back a bit, because Taves and Kane and Malcolm and Crosby won by now, and our core hasn't done it.
Not even got by the first round.
Not even got by the first round. Don't remind me, but yes, not even got by the first round.
Yeah.
I think the challenge with the core is as soon as you trade a Nylander, and that was one of the guys I would trade. And after this playoffs, I've kind of changed my tone, because I think maybe, he's got something there. And at, his salary, he might be a really good price at 6.9 in terms of his production. You're not going to win a Marner trade. You're going to lose the Marner trade if you trade him, as much as he's got to step it up. And obviously you're not going to trade Matthews and Tavares. Those guys are here till their contracts are up for sure. So I honestly think we're stuck with these 4 for at least
I agree.
The end of their contracts. So
Peter, sorry to interrupt, but I was going to say, if Tavares didn't get hurt, we wouldn't be here today talking about it.
And that's it. And that's exactly where I was going to get to, Lenny. I think that's a great point. And I hate to use injuries, because I think we were good enough and deep enough to beat a team like Montreal. But when Shanahan, and the first thing I said when the Leafs lost is, the one thing I noticed, and I talked to a lot of people about this, Game 5 to me was Game 7.
Yeah.
That was the game they needed to win.
They had to win that.
And what I saw missing from the core is as skilled as they are, there was no killer instinct. And the guy that probably had that was the guy that was sitting in the sidelines out of that core. And that would have been Tavares that would have came in there at least with that killer instinct. He would have been there, the heart and soul. And not to make excuses because they should have won, but you know, I don't know if we're at the stage yet to change the core, but I think Dubas has to find, and it's tough with the salary cap for sure. He has to find better pieces to surround him. Simmons was okay. Thornton, God love him. He should have been, up in the stands cheering. He probably would have been a great cheerleader. I'm sure he did a ton of great things in the dressing room, but
I agree.
Unfortunately, you need the production on the ice, and he wasn't an option.
Mm-hmm.
God love Spezza. I think he's got to come back. But, when I talk about the core, we're talking about 4 forwards. And I think what we're really missing from the core is we need a stud D. We need somebody in the back end that's a stud. And Riley is not that guy. And when you talk about changes of the core or what to do with the core, I think that would be my focus is they need to get a stud D to be part of that core, and I don't think Riley's the answer.
So we're gonna get to the what next topic towards the end here, and then you guys can chime in on what you think some of the changes that need to be for either forwards, defense, goaltending. The one thing I would say with looking at the 4, my concern would be yes, and this is. You see that we have fourth line plugs. Thanks for watching. He just said you guys were up without Tavares, no excuses.
It makes a good point.
So Tavares would have helped, and I definitely think he would have helped in terms of leadership or whatnot. But I think really there's some salary to shed, but we'll get to that in a bit here. So Okane, no Leaf shirt. First time in the lounge. You had your Bana special last time. You had your whistle like you're doing flow drills back in practice there with Fab skating. Making Fab skate blue line, red line back in the day when we coached them. What are your thoughts?
Well, just to go off topic here, it's a good. I wouldn't come on if Vic was on. Just to let you know. All right. So my thoughts. I'm upset. I'm very disappointed. The expectations for the Leafs this year was a no-brainer. They were supposed to be the North Division winners. End of story, right? I'm hearing on the radio like Lenny is hearing a lot of you guys are like Peter also said and Julian. It's like all these guys are talking what they should do, what they shouldn't do, right? You know what? At the end of the day, I feel there has to be some sort of, call it repercussion, because you need somebody, and I like what Lenny said, to play with Austin Matthews. People have figured out Marner, right? These guys, these teams, right, could shut down more. Even though he had a great year, he picked up all the points, right? That was great. You know what? It's like one of our previous episodes. I believe a guest mentioned you got to kind of carry your season into the playoff. So if it's a good year, you're going to have a good playoff. In this case, it's not true, right? They shut him down, right? They boxed him out, right? I could go on forever, and I'll explain after what my thoughts are.
Yeah, and getting back to that though, Frank. Again, for me, just looking at the Maple Leafs, and again, of course, Saturday night, I love hockey, so I'm watching the Leafs or whatnot. A lot of smoke and mirrors with this team because they had a lot of issues throughout the season as well. Their power play looked like it was like the Harlem Globetrotters in the beginning of the year, and then they started phasing out. And of all accounts, if you read in the media, there was a great article in Sportsnet when the Leafs got knocked out, is that there seemed to be a little bit of, I would say, too many Chiefs in the kitchen, or too many cooks in the kitchen. With they left Manny Malhotra in charge of the power play, and when things started to get a little dicey and things started to get a little weak, Sheldon Keefe took it over, and there seemed to be a little bit of I guess confusion of what they wanted, and that stuff was hidden out of the media. But Fab, I'm going to get to you in 1 second here, but my biggest thing, guys, is, and then we'll go, down here with everybody, is I think Shanahan and Dubas need to take a brunt of this stuff, because they hide from it. They make everything sound like it's hunky dory and it's Wonderland and Leafland. I think that's bullshit, to be honest with you. I think these guys need to be responsible for what has gone on here. It's just not good enough, right? And the hiring of Sheldon Keefe, if you look at his junior record, it's not the greatest. He won the cup, the Calder Cup, with the Marlies. But, again, you look at Florida, like a Joel Quenneville, and we talked about this before. I don't know. I think even the coaching has to be looked at. But Fab, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, a lot of good points brought up. I really – there's something that doesn't make sense, in my opinion, and I think it ultimately comes down to not necessarily what we see on TV, but mentality. I think the Leafs have a hockey mentality problem. They're not. I remember our good friend Steve Bells came on one time, and ironically, the guy who never watches hockey apparently brought up the best point. They lacked the killer instinct, he said, or the eye of the tiger, right? Yeah. So that's exactly what the problem was. They lack that. It's a mental issue. And as a result of that, I don't know if you touch the core unless you can make the hockey team better, because they do have a lot of talent. And you don't make a move unless you're going to make this team better. And Dubas came out, and he pretty much guaranteed their spot. If you heard the press conferences after, he pretty much guaranteed that these 4 guys are back. Okay? Mm-hmm. But the only thing is, though, why don't they have that hockey mentality like I'm seeing on TV right now with the Islanders right now, with a few former Leafs? You see the way these guys are playing, the intensity. They're doing all the hockey basics correctly. They're going to the corners. They're mucking it up. They're playing to win. We didn't see that with the Leafs, quite frankly. And we saw occasionally Matthews, but I don't think you touch the core, although we're upset with them, definitely. And there has to be repercussions. Nick, you were my coach. And no matter how close of a relationship we had with Frank, and you would always be over. When I didn't play, what'd you do? You benched me, right? When I didn't play well. Why couldn't we do that with one of those guys? Send out a statement, mix it up a bit.
Because Fab, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. And I've said this to Julian at family occasions or whatnot. I've told him this. The inmates run the asylum, and they did not want the warden in Babcock there no more, because they want cupcakes and flowers. They want to listen to music during practice. So that's what Sheldon Keefe does, Fab.
And you're saying Sheldon Keefe I didn't know. I never looked into his junior record, and you said he didn't have the greatest record.
He was okay.
But at the same time, could it be because he has a good relationship with Dubas, and he would do whatever he wants? Right?
He was his GM.
So there's that. But in terms of mentality, so there's that part. But there's also this whole thing with analytics. And Dubas in the press conference said that he pretty much said that he viewed Game 5, 6, and 7 the same way he views the first 4 games of the series. How is that possible? Game 5, 6, and 7 have a different weight. The analytics don't show the weight of the importance of a game. So this guy's fixated with the analytics. And if you hear the players talk after the game, they're talking about chances. They're talking about shots. So it feels like from up top, these analytics are going down. And these guys are thinking, not in terms of the way we used to play hockey with, finishing your checks, doing the basics, play for your teammates, right? They're thinking of these analytics, even in their head, in my opinion. So there's a mentality problem with the organization.
So actually, speaking of analytics there, if I can just add something, Nick. Shot attempts for the Leafs in games 3 and 4 were almost equal in games 5 and 6. So the Leafs had 50 shot attempts in game 3 and 53 shot attempts in game 4. In games 5, they had 52. In game 7, they had 52. Game 6, they had 76. But but in that sense, I can see maybe what he's saying. But
But at
there's
the end
so
of the
many factors that go into this, right? Like we haven't even talked about, the meatball goals that Campbell's given up, or the injury to Tavares. There's so many other factors that contribute to this. Marner and Matthews had incredible playoff rounds prior to this. Matthews was a star against Columbus. Bruce Cassidy said Marner was the most lethal player against Boston in those series. Right. So it's just,
I mean, at the end of the day, sorry, Julian, but at the end of the day, it didn't mean nothing. Right?
right.
What
Yeah.
was the end result?
You're right. Yeah. You're right.
So
Yeah.
stop.
Exactly.
I get what you're saying. But
Yeah.
for me, it fucking hurts so bad that it's like you're watching them. And yeah, like you said, they go through the analytics in their mind, and they're waiting for it to happen because the analytics. Go out there and do something. They're not connecting that one game. Change it up.
The only analytics that count at the end of the game is the score on the scoreboard.
That's right.
That's it.
100%.
Throw out all that stuff. I don't care how many shots they attempted or whatnot. It doesn't matter to me.
You can't measure that.
You can't. It's about quality, not quantity at the end of the game for me, right? So we got Belzy's got something here for you, Lenny. They played like when the old guy at the rink throws the puck out into the ice and says, "Here, go play." So there's Belzy's chiming in to Lenny tonight.
I thought you were watching Grease. Hey, Bells.
Yeah.
So in terms of the analytics and stuff like that, and like you said, Fab, you made a really good point here, because what happens is, and you guys know this, and I see this even, myself being a Penguins fan and hurting the last 3 years, getting knocked out by lesser opponent, let's say, but the Islanders are showing that they can play. But that being said, when a coach brings in a system to their team, they're not going to change their system. And what they do is they preach the same style of conversation at press conferences. The one thing that I found really, really amusing, though, is if you listen to Marner, I forget what game it was. I think it was when they were Montreal was up 3-1, and then Toronto came back. They lost in overtime, I think, right? That's correct? Is that correct, guys? One of the games?
Game 5?
They came back. It was 3-1 Montreal, and then Toronto came
back.
back.
That was game 5.
Yeah, right. Okay, so game 5. And Marner, you know what he said? He used Babcock's quote. We didn't start on time.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. So would you forget?
To me, this is the stuff that, when you saw Marner after the series, after they lost the 7th game there, he's not a guy that's ever been through adversity at all in his hockey career. He's had a smooth drive all the way to the NHL, but now when the tough gets going, even with Austin Matthews too, like I know, Julian, you made a good point. They put up some numbers, in prior series or whatnot. But this, like Frank said, this was going to be the year that this was their perfect opportunity to make it to the conference finals. Correct, Lenny?
All right. Yeah. 100%. So now what you just said about Matthews and Marner, if this series that they lost does not start a fire in their belly or spurs in their ass to make their next year even that much more important, then fuck off. Go away.
Blow it up. Well, I think it's given,
Because if they don't,
I agree.
If they don't take the reins and don't take precedent of what they did or didn't do, and make next year even that much more important to them, then vaffanculo. Then you can't do anything, because if this as an athlete doesn't bother you, then you shouldn't be on this team.
My worry is I thought that was going to happen after last year in Columbus, being at home, being in a bubble, playing against Columbus, and I thought after last year's loss, they would have come in, and so I agree with you, Lenny.
Yeah.
If next year, I think we probably would have had this conversation the last probably 2-3 years.
Yeah,
next year, but we are getting to the finish line. I think if next year these guys, pull the shenanigans as far as what they showed us in the playoffs this year, especially their top 2 guys, and then I think that's when you blow it up.
Okay,
I think we're at the finish line.
You're right. Last year when they lost to Columbus, and then they start saying, wow, when Muzzin went down last year, it went to hell. I mean, they had no depth. They had to bring in Marinson. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
my God. Don't get me
So
going.
they addressed the problems that they had, and they went out and got
Bogosian?
Bogosian. They went out
Yeah.
and got Thornton. They thought he was going to be help out. They thought Simmons, Brody, and this and that. So I mean, they had a good, decent team around them. So, but now losing the way they did, if they don't come out with fire in their belly, I'm telling you, there's no hope.
But again, looking at next year, guys, next year.
No, it's not next year.
Yeah, next year, like your license plate. It's like next year. So being a Leaf fan, diehard Leaf fans, how many times do you have to say next year when the guys that need to take really responsibility of this team? For me, when you look at Marner and Matthews, they brought in Marleau a couple of years ago to show them, mature them, to lead them, whatnot. Okay. It was like they were his two sons. You know, they had the same pajamas on at Christmas. Everything looked fantastic, right? I'm serious here. They drove to the rink together. Like I drove my kids to the rink, right? Everything's great. Okay. Right. They fall on their faces. Then they bring in Jumbo Joe, that the guy, sorry, Jumbo, you're a loser. Number one, you never won anything in the NHL. Okay, you've won a gold medal, but you stink. You stink now. Like honestly, the Midnight Express, Steve Rebellato, give them a call. Like he's ready to play at Sports Village. Okay.
And
Then you bring in Wayne Simmons, and you know what? I like him. He's a grinder, whatnot. You bring in Nick Foligno. But like I said to all you guys there, and I know Frank and I went back and forth with it, you brought guys in, except for Bogosian, and he won the Cup with Tampa. You brought veteran leadership with no cups. Yeah. Pete, you were going to say something?
No, you hit a great point. I think Marleau came in and, buddy. Thornton was the exact same thing. I saw a bunch of videos. They're all buddy. So maybe, hopefully, they've learned, like you said, the Shanahans, the Dubas. Maybe they need somebody to come in there and actually grab them by the heads and smash their heads together and say, boys, this is a tough game. This isn't, party time here. And maybe they haven't brought those right leaders, those veterans.
Maybe they got to bring Wendell Clark into the dressing room and slap these guys around a bit.
See, the thing is, I think they're old enough. I don't even think you need to do that anymore.
Well, that's the thing.
I'd rather have a younger guy for that price tag at Thornton, who's faster and more of a grinder and who's hungrier, right? Like,
but that's the thing, Julian. Like when you look at Mitch Marner and they're, like you said, they're generational talents, and Matthews is a game changer, and so is Marner. But to me, the thing is that with the organization itself, like. Both Shanahan and Dubas walk around like they've won 5 cups when they haven't won anything, and they haven't gotten out of the first round. So to me,
Shanahan's won 3 cups.
Oh yeah, as a player, but not in the front office, not for the Leafs, right? But
he knows what it takes to win a cup.
Does he?
I can't see. Well, he's been on teams that won cups, so he can see what it takes.
But
right? So why don't you build the teams that won the cups like that, like Toronto?
But he's put a lot of expectation in his his flower child Dubas, right? So to me, again, like if you look at Big Lou, okay, Lou goes to New York. What happens? They're winning. They're like they're at least they're getting out of the first round, right? So to me, like I don't know. To me, like Paul Santi just brought up.
I was just looking at those.
Yeah. So again, he goes, the coach and GM both are arrogant. So, right. And I agree with that. I think definitely, there's a problem there. So for me, we can go after Mitch and we can go after Austin all we want here, but I think it's really Keith. I think it's really Dubas, and I think it's Shanahan. That's where the problem is here.
Look at guys like Babcock now. I think back, why didn't he put Marner and Matthews together? Because he's experienced. He probably knew something there, right? He knew teams were going to modify their gameplay to shut those 2 guys down, right?
But that's what happened.
Look at Lou Lamoriello, leaves the Leafs, go to the Islanders. Look how good the Islanders are, right? Experience dictates something, right? These are guys who have won. And don't be wrong, I feel like Keefe will get there. I feel like this is a huge learning lesson.
But I don't think, Julian, I don't think he's your guy. I don't think he's your guy. Now, let me tell you something. An NHL executive that I know through somebody, okay, said to me last week, okay? No, listen to this, Lenny. Said to me, you know who the Leafs need?
Who?
John Tortorella.
That's what I was thinking.
Ooh.
I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind seeing that at all, to be honest with you.
Because the room is a playground.
Well, there's that, but it's a playground. But again, it comes down up top. They have this. The mentality comes from up top. So the Leafs, the organization, has been a place where these guys are all buddies with each other. We see the bromance going on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's a serious professional organization. It's a place where people perform. And if you don't perform, there's consequences. I haven't seen that yet.
And that's a good point, Fab. So in your position that you work, right? If you underperform for 6 years, you're Gonski. You're done. See you later. All you guys.
Exactly.
Everybody.
Yeah.
But why do these guys get a free pass? I don't know. So coaching, Sheldon Keefe. Guys, Julian, your thoughts on his performance in the playoffs?
You know what? I had to think about it afterwards. I mean, I'm kind of shocked that he didn't juggle up lines, right? Like it's kind of given, like game 5, game 6 goes by, and especially even when you have the last change, like you have home ice advantage here, and you're not switching up the lines. You're putting Jumbo on the first power play unit, and some of my friends I'm listening to the podcast and they might disagree with me, but I've been calling that out. I'm like, why don't you put Spezza in there? Why don't you put Simmons in there? He's got better hands than Thornton. He'll knock guys around. And I just, you know what? They lost, so it's easy for us to say that now. Obviously, if they win, then he looks like like a genius. But he didn't win. That's reality, and that's why we're able to say this stuff. And when you're throwing out the same lines after that and one another, same line. I think Paul Santi said this on the last podcast. Coaches kind of get into like some kind of tunnel vision, right, where they just become stubborn and they don't want to change it. They keep throwing guys out. They keep saying, "Oh, the analytics will work themselves out. They'll eventually capitalize." But what I was seeing was that anytime they had the puck, anytime there was a zone entry on game 6 and 7, what did Montreal do? The puck comes right back out. There's no setup. There's no offensive zone pressure. And it's just like, man, like how many times do you have to see that to warrant changing up the lines, changing up the power play the last 20 or 25 games of the season, right? It's just like, it's stale. It's so predictable, right? You're passing, Marner passes to Riley, Marner back to Riley. Marner's looking for a pass to Matthews. Matthews one times it. Like I can tell you exactly what they're going to do. You don't need to be on the, like, you don't need to be a genius to figure that out. So it's just like, and I know they maybe did try different combinations and stuff, but like it was just stale. Like the power play killed them. They didn't convert. There's so many things that went wrong. It wasn't just the coaching. It was the power play. And it was the goaltending. It was honestly the one positive thing I think I could say, despite the giveaways by maybe like a Dermott this year, was their defense was a lot better this year, in my opinion. But the coaching, I hope this is a good lesson for Keefe, and I hope he's not stubborn next time around and he tries some different stuff, because that was unacceptable.
Lenny.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree with Julian to a certain degree about the goaltending. I said you can't blame Campbell. Campbell played well.
Yeah, he did.
Campbell played well.
Yeah.
What do you want from the guy? I mean, he less than 2 goals. If you can't score, he likes to lose 3-1. I mean, in the last game, he couldn't put any goals and score any goals. That's not Campbell's fault. Okay, maybe that first goal that he let in, but come on, their power play. And I said it the last time I was on with Thornton being on it. They should have changed it up, and they never really gave Price a hard time.
Not at all.
Run him, not bump him and what have you. He saw everything. So a goalie of that stature, he can see the shot's coming. He's stopping it. You can shoot until the cows come home. He's not going to go in.
Yeah, you got to get greasy goals.
You got to hit him. You got to not hit him. You got to bother him.
Yeah.
You got to get him out of his position. But they didn't do that.
Yeah.
About Keith, you give him another year and see what happens next year. And if it doesn't work out, goodbye.
I think you have to.
You're talking about what's the power play coach?
Malhotra.
Yeah.
They're talking about him leaving. Why not bring in Bruce Boudreau? I said it the last time.
Great point.
Bring in Bruce Boudreau. He'll work that power play. And you know what? He'll probably help out Keith in the long run as well, with his experience, because he was a good coach.
So yeah, he's.
I don't know about Tortorella. You're going from one extreme.
I know.
To the other. Okay,
it's one extreme to another. I got it.
It's from one end to the other, and that's not what it's not. I don't think that'll work, especially with the players of today.
Yeah,
the generation of players of today. Forget about it.
Yeah,
not gonna happen. Because
question about Malhotra. Just sorry to cut you guys off.
Yeah.
Did he even play on the? I'm looking at his on his hockey DB stats.
No, he didn't play. He didn't play on the power play.
And I don't think this guy has scored more than 35 points in a season. What is he doing coaching the power play?
I think he played on the power play though, in junior or whatnot. But that's a valid point. And again, for me, it goes back. Peter, we'll get your opinion here though. But to me, it goes back in terms of just having the coaches they have on the bench. There's no Stanley Cup pedigree on that bench. I don't care what anybody tells me. This team has a core, like Peter said, of 4 players that are really, really good hockey players, right? There needs to be some type of experience there to guide these guys through. You don't have to spend money on players. You have to have good coaching staff, right? So for me, that's where my thought is, and I'll just throw this out to you guys, just as a train of thought. You look at the World Championships here. Canada started off 0-3. They have a fabulous coach. They had a fabulous coach behind that bench, Gerard Gallant. Okay, if I'm a Leaf fan, I'm not waiting. There's no time to wait anymore. You have Austin Matthews. I think he has 3 years left on his contract. I believe 3 or 4. If he's not getting past the first round, he's out of here, man. So you guys have a 3-year window. No, next year. Now, Peter, your thoughts?
Gerard Gallant was exactly what I was going to say. There's a guy who's lost jobs. He just won a world championship with a bunch of third liners. And if I'm the Leafs and I want to win, I'm giving him a call. I'm saying, hey, where do you want to fit in? And I'm going to Keith and saying, you know what? We got to bring this guy in. Here's how it's going to work. Are they going to do that? Probably not. But as far as I'm concerned, Keith to me got an F. I mean, yeah, we got it. We had a beautiful regular season, finishing first, but coaching is in the playoffs. Anyone can coach during the regular season. Yep. A good coach, coaches in the playoffs. And what a coach controls is special teams. They control the special teams. They can't control when someone misses a shot. They can't control when someone falls down from skating. They can't control that stuff, but they can control the special teams. The other thing they can control is who's on the ice at what times. How complacent did Keith get through that series? It was ridiculous. Right. This is the NHL. When things aren't going right, you need to make changes. Yeah. He got out-coached.
By a coach.
He got out-coached by somebody who wasn't even a head coach at the beginning of the year.
Exactly. I was just going to say that, right?
So
we have a question there.
That's true. He got out-coached.
So we got a couple of things here. We got the Tipu family says, my Leaf jersey is now a pee pad for the dog. Let's go Kraken. and then this is a valid point too, guys, from Nelson. Great show, gents. Could it be Montreal was just better?
Well, they were better. They won.
The back half, yeah, 100%.
I disagree, but anyhow.
we were up 3-1. You got to give credit to Montreal.
They did fantastic.
You know what?
The overtimes, it could have gone either way. It's one shot. I mean, that one overtime, they were shooting them 13-1. Okay, and then they get that one chance. Here's the back of the net. Game over.
There goes your analytics.
Game over.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
Peter, what
One
were you going to say there?
chance.
I was just going to say we were better in the analytics department because if you actually look at some of the stats, we had better possession, we had better scoring
Yeah.
chances. Our analytics, we actually won in the analytics department, but what
Yeah.
mattered is
The score.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
That's
That's what
Good
matters.
point.
Frank,
Yes,
I know,
sir.
like you're just rattled tonight. You look like, you know what? Like it's
Yeah, I am, Nick. So when I think of our head coach,
Yeah.
I think of Game 5. Okay, so Game 5, Montreal scores. I believe it was the go-ahead goal. Campbell went out of his crease to save the puck. Right, couldn't control it. Came out, and they had to challenge
yeah.
this call. So, did Keith want a challenge? Did it come from him? Because they took so much time, right? And they had their stupid mics. Maybe it was Dubas upstairs saying, "Go ahead and challenge it." Maybe it's Dubas that's coaching this team.
It's got nothing to do with that.
Well, who are they talking to?
They're talking to the guys in the video room.
Yeah. So, but come on, if you're a coach, don't waste time. It's a goal, right? Your goalie made this initial save. He was outside the crease, right? Nobody was around. It's fair game. Was it Toppoli in front? You know, and there it is, right? How do you challenge that? That was a season-ending play right there. I give heck if it's Keith's decision because of that. Sorry, man, out of there. He has to go. All right. I'm sorry. I'm hardball. I'm fed up as a Leaf fan. Will I always be a Leaf fan? 100%. I believe blue, but I'm gonna be honest with you. No more. Maybe it might have to come from ownership at the organization.
Well, I tell you one thing
right?
that you mentioned ownership. Okay, I'm sure Tannenbaum is not happy with what's going on. So much money, and the money that they're losing because of Rogers and whatever, because they're in cahoots with Rogers, and Rogers is losing millions without them being in the playoffs. And this is not just being here in Toronto or in Ontario; it's worldwide. North American wide.
Yeah,
That's a pandemic. Yeah, for sure.
When
Huge
the
opportunity loss.
into the playoffs, they make more money.
Right, 100%.
They're losing big time, and they've been spending a lot of money to make money, and they're not seeing the end result. So I'm telling you, next year.
Next year. Lenny, I can't believe you're saying that. Next year.
They don't come out, like I said, next year with the fire in their belly.
I don't think there's going to be a next year, Lenny, because you know what? Number one, the Leafs, I think goaltending, Campbell had a great year, right? That guy, I feel.
We're going to get to that, Frank. We're going to get to that. Let
me finish what I had to say.
Yeah. About Keith.
About Keith,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
That's a guy that I don't think he knows what he's doing behind the bench. How do you let these non-experienced guys run with it? This is the playoffs. If it was Babcock back there, you don't think he will be with Malhotra?
Babcock is so great. How come nobody else has picked him up? Huh?
Who, Babcock?
Yeah. How come Babcock is so great?
Oh no.
So how come nobody else has picked him up?
So I think let us go to Saskatchewan. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get the Fab, and then I'm going to go down from Fab to Julian here, and I'm going to say yes or no, keep Keith. Okay. So Fab, your thoughts on Sheldon Keith?
1 more year, yes.
1 more year. Wow, man, you guys are nice. I'm a Penguins fan.
Who are you going to get?
I'm a Penguins fan, and I'm calling for Sully's head, and you won 2 cups for Pittsburgh, right? So, and you guys haven't seen a cup in 54 years, 55 years, and you're still saying 1 more year? Win now. I
agree, but who are you going to get? Who are you going to get?
Gerard Gallant.
There's a lot of
Bruce
guys.
Boudreau.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of guys out there. Who's out there?
Tortorella.
There you go, right? A lot of good guys
Babcock,
out there.
he's out there. Get him.
The reason why
Bring him
Babcock's not
back.
hired. Hey, listen. The reason why Babcock is not hired, Lenny, is because the Toronto media took it in their hands to drag this guy through the mud like crazy.
Okay,
Right?
but what he did, he was an ass by doing what he did. Let's face it, he's got a big ego.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He's not perfect.
Out there.
He's not perfect.
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, and what he did. First of all, what he did to going back
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Spezza. Okay,
Yeah.
being a lead,
Yeah,
he
he was-
that was big guys.
and
Yeah,
then not playing in front of
Mhm.
Yeah,
in front of his
hometown fans.
family,
Yeah.
hometown, his 1500th game, whatever it was, against his old team that he was drafted by.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
First game of the year.
That's all. That's his ego.
He lost the room.
He may never coach again in the NHL.
Oh,
Yeah.
He lost the room right there. That
Right
was
there,
it.
he lost the room
He lost the
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I-
that was a dick move. And what
Yeah.
he did to the
Yeah, that was a bad move, man. Spezza?
no, that's
Oh, Marner?
Oh, Marner, that and
Who?
Madano. With
Yeah,
the-
back in the
yeah,
day.
yeah,
Yeah. The guy is egotistic.
dick.
Yeah. He is.
Mhm.
So Fab says, okay, Keith, come back one more year. Take my soul for another year. Okane,
Out right away.
Oh.
Fired.
see you later.
Gone.
Yep.
You and Vic take over. I'm
Yeah.
in. Peter,
If I can get Gerard Gallant, he's gone.
beauty. That's a good move. I think he's like, listen, look what he did with the Knights. He brought him right to the Stanley Cup, right?
He knows how to win.
Yep. Lenny,
I'm with Peter. I said if you can get Gerard Gallant, yes. If you can't, another year with help on the side, like a Bruce Boudreau.
yeah.
It-
Here, the Tipu just says this, guys. So
Who?
I'm in.
I was
okay?
gonna say
I'm in.
I vote Nick
That's
Ty.
Nick Ty for coach.
Oh man.
Yeah. So they got my picture up in the head office over here in town. So I'm known for a few things. All right. So Julian,
Man, it's hard to say. I kind of side with Peter and Lenny on you got to look at what's available, and if there's somebody else that's better available for the job, you might as well take that chance. But I hate making changes all the time, right? I don't think that. I think that's the history of the Leafs is making changes all the time, firing coaches, trading players, and I think that's what's kind of hurt them. I think it's been a huge learning lesson for Keefe. I think maybe give him at least one more shot because I don't think guys like Gallant would come to Toronto. I mean, at least I would think so, but it's not an attractive market for a lot of coaches, especially with the media.
yeah, it is a tough market to coach in, right?
Mhm.
You got most places you'll have 10 media members after a game, but here you'll have 52 to 60 in that dressing room pre-COVID, let's say, right? So it is a tough market. But what I think though is that again, if I'm a Leaf fan, I'm not waiting for next year. Like I said, you have guys on contract. You guys, if you can find the right guy, then you go for it, right? I think maybe you can find the right guy, you make that move, but you keep the core, right? So, question for you guys next here, and I sent this to you guys. So, what's next? What's next? The core, the coach, the GM, the players. Peter, you brought up a valid point here because I have this down actually on my notes about Morgan Riley. We'll start off with you, Peter. Morgan Riley, okay, $5 million. He has one more year left in his contract. He's a UFA after next year. You have $5 million you can shut off the books. My question, though, to you is if you get rid of Morgan Riley, you need to find somebody to take up his minutes. So right now, I don't see that person in the organization. What do you do?
I'm moving Riley. I don't think he's the quarter. I mean, one of the problems with the power play is we didn't have a quarterback, and that's a huge problem. I'm moving Riley, and I think there's enough talent guys out there that they can pick up via trade. Like a Dougie Hamilton in Carolina. He's a great example. I'm sure there's others. I mean, you're not going to go out and get a Hedman necessarily or some of those big name guys because those teams aren't going to trade those guys, but there's enough guys, even like Ellis in Nashville. I look at a guy like him.
He's a Toronto boy too.
He's a Toronto boy. I mean, there's option out there, and I think if you can make that one change, that might kind of wake up a little bit. Because I'm not confident the guys are confident in Riley, having him back there. It was pretty odd having Sandin on your first unit power play going into the playoffs after a full season of Riley. That was a big red flag for me. Glad he was trying things, but man, that's not the time to throw a young kid out there when your number one guy can't do it. So other changes, I mean, to me, you got to find guys that have that killer instinct. Don't bring these veterans that haven't won a Stanley Cup. Look at the Tampa Bays. Look at guys that are in Tampa Bay. Some names that I've already been hearing out there: Coleman,
Goudreau,
a couple of hard-working guys.
Casey Zizekas is a UFA after this year. Those are guys that you can plug in, right?
Yeah, and I would probably bring back Spezza and Bogosian. I liked what both of those brought to the table, because they didn't only bring leadership, but they actually brought some gameplay, which was Spezza. Talking about Keefe, how many times did he use Thornton instead of Spezza when Spezza was going to offer way more on that first line? Never tried him there. But yet, who had the second most goals in the playoffs? Jason Spezza for the Leafs. So I would bring him back. Bogosian was solid bottom pairing. So there's no reason why I wouldn't bring him back and just build from there. But we are getting to a point here where that if they can't do it soon, then man, I'm telling you, that cremation and that is gonna be real.
So Fab, my thoughts are this, and I'll throw it out to you, and then you can give me yours here. Yep. So I'm looking at these guys that make the big dollars here for the Leafs, right? And I think we all seen that, Nylander, like Lenny said, he had a really good playoff, right? And I think, when he first got signed, Peter and I think we were at the rinks at 6:30 in the morning at Stick and Puck when Nylander got signed there, and we were talking about, that 6.9, it's too high. But now you look at that contract, it seems like it's a decent contract for that player. Do you trade Marner at 10.9 to free up cap space to maybe bring in guys like Coleman, guys like Goudreau, guys like Casey Zizekas, maybe look at a defenseman? Do you use that 10.9 and disperse it and build more around Matthews, Tavares, and Nylander?
It's a tough question, really tough question. Personally, I think I don't think you touch the core. I think something has to happen with mentality in the organization. I think they came to the series with the wrong mindset. Seeing Matthews being pushed around like a rag doll with that smile on his face, for me, was a sign that, it was disrespectful, in my opinion, to the game. You don't play hockey that way. The mindset was gone. Like, this team, for some reason, has something in the playoffs where that mindset is not in place. And for me, the true issue is more up top, whether it be management or coaching. I think the issue is more up there as opposed to the core.
So you're banking on culture, atmosphere, and work ethic. It's a dressing room issue.
Yep.
Frank?
Yep. So I disagree with Fab because you need change, right? It's a mental thing. You need change. Like, nobody's talking about the contribution for this year in regards to Zach Hyman, right? Here's a guy that works hard every night, right? Gives it 110%. Yeah, we're talking about Nylander, right? I know, Nick, we touched base on it the other day when we were chatting about, Nylander doesn't win the 50-50 pucks, right? He goes fishing with a stick. Well, that's his thought, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you get a Zach Hyman, you reward him in more of a top core, he will give you results. As for Marner, I would trade Marner just to relieve some cap space and start bringing in this chain, right? I like that Ellis, Nashville, right? I think it was Julian that brought it up, right?
I think it's
Out
Peter.
there,
No,
yeah. You know what?
Or was he?
100%. Oh, Peter, that's right. Sorry, Peter. Peter brought it up. That he would be perfect fit for the Leafs, right? In my mind, right? And nobody's talking about what Montreal did. Montreal boxed out the Leafs. End of story. The reason why Montreal beat the Leafs, and it's a little off topic, but I have to say it, is because of Anderson.
Okay, so
Right?
you're going more down. You think
Josh
the team-
Anderson?
Josh Anderson.
Josh Anderson.
You're
He
saying that
was an animal. He shut down the Leafs. Everybody was afraid of him, right?
But that's-
Everybody.
but that comes down to culture and to the roster that you had. And one of the points that we talked about last week in the lounge was the point that Simmons, with him being such a beast that he is, he didn't see enough time. Okay, he didn't even get I don't know if you guys remember this, but we're hitting over an hour, but that's fine tonight because it's a good conversation here. But you guys remember Simmons on the Flyers? This guy was a presence in front of the net on the power play. It was him, Giroux, and Voracek. Okay, Simmons was a beast, and he didn't have an opportunity to do that with the Leafs. So,
Yep.
right? So, I agree with you, Frank, with that. So, Lenny, what are you doing here? What are you doing to the Warrior?
I disagree with getting rid of Riley. He's a good defenseman. You try to find somebody that puts the minutes in like he does and what he can do on the ice. Frank talked about Hyman. There's rumors out there that they're offering him $5 million and he's turning it down. You think this guy is worth more than $5 million? You can teach somebody to play like Hyman, okay? You can't teach somebody to score points like Marner. And if you don't have a guy like Marner on your team scoring points, guess what? You're not going into the playoffs.
Exactly.
So, I don't understand. I'd rather get rid of Hyman and bring up a kid like Nick Robertson or maybe Brooks or someone else or maybe Simmons on that line and create some space for these two guys on the first line. But
or use that $5 million. Use that money, Lenny, to go after somebody else.
Okay, so now you're going to
do that too.
Anderson is not going to be coming back. There's $5 million that you don't have to spend. And you tell me, Anderson, who's going to pick him up for more than $5 million? Who's going to pick this guy up? His best bet is to come back to Toronto at a discount price of maybe $1 million, $1.5 million to play backup. Because nobody's going to take this guy. And he's not going to get the money he thinks he deserves because of the season that he had.
Okay, so how confident though are you guys? Lenny, you say that Anderson comes up as a backup at 1.5, but if I'm a Leaf fan, how confident am I that Campbell can perform as a number one goalie and play?
I think Campbell's proved it. So
but he hasn't.
Who are you going to go get? Who are you going to get? Who are you going to get to play in there for Toronto?
Okay, so
Murray
and experience.
No. So I'm talking about experience. So there's two goalies right now in the Vegas market. Okay, they can't keep both. So you're either going after Robin Leonard or you're going Fleury.
Leonard.
What?
Leonard. What was his name?
Robin Leonard. You don't like him?
Yeah, no.
Are you ready? So I don't know. To me, again, you're putting a lot of your balls in one basket with Campbell. He hasn't played a full.
I don't think Campbell's the number one, guys. I know he's played well, but
I think he's a good backup. But I don't know if you can do like a 70-30 split with this guy. I don't know. It's a risk.
So there's all these young players. How about Carolina's got all these young goaltenders?
Right.
How about Columbus has all these young goaltenders? Why don't you make a trade for them?
Exactly. So, but like a guy like Mrazek is a UFA, right? And you bring him in. for a good price. You have Campbell as a backup. You go 60-40 split. But I don't know. To me, you're putting a lot of risk here with Campbell being your number one. So Julian, the core.
I would not get rid of Riley. I'm sorry, guys. I would not get rid of Riley.
And he's got one more year left.
Who says? Yeah, he's got one more year left. Who says Bogosian's coming back? He only signed 1 year.
Yeah.
Who says Bogosian will come back?
He may leave. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, if he leaves, then maybe
who's going to take his minutes?
Well, I think like Dermott, like his expectations were high. I still think that he still needs to learn more. Defensemen take a little bit more time, and even Sandin.
Guys, just remember one thing. Sorry, Nick, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
Riley's only 26 years old. He's been in the league for 8 years. He's been in the league for 7 years. He's only 26. Okay, so we all know that defensemen take a little longer, and I think he's done well in those 6 or 7 years that he's been playing with Toronto.
Yeah, I think Riley's a good top 4. I don't think he's your go-to guy. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead, Julian.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say what scares me is they have $12.5 million in cap space to sign at least 7 to 8 full-time players. I think it's a foregone conclusion. I don't think Hyman's coming back, number one. So they got to replace him.
Go, get lost.
Yeah, right. I mean, it is what it is. But I don't think they change a thing.
He's the guy that would put with one type.
Lenny, you know what?
Yeah.
The guy hustled, man. That guy, he's worth the $5 million.
Okay, sorry.
You know what? Who are you gonna teach a guy that's gonna go in the corners? Like Mick said, with fucking Nylander, right? If it wasn't for Hyman, Nylander's a nobody sometimes.
Frank,
right? Who feeds him the
he
puck?
hustled his ass up because it was his final year of his contract. Okay, we'll see what he does when he gets the big money.
I agree. Hyman's best part of the season, if you guys looked at the whole season, and he had some really good parts of the season, was when he
Lenny's a goalie. Bowsy says slap on those pads, Lenny.
Hyman's best part of the season, if you want to really look back, was when he was on the third line.
Yeah,
he actually had his best games. And I think I love Hyman. Don't get me wrong. There's no chance I'm giving him $5 million.
No,
I think he's a fantastic third liner, because when he played with Matthews and Marner, what happened?
He's lost.
Nothing.
He didn't convert. How many chances did he had in the playoffs? He couldn't bury them.
He can't keep up. He's lost.
Couldn't bury his chances.
I love Hyman. He's on my third line all day long.
Peter,
no chance he's on my first line.
Sorry, Peter. But what happened when Marner and Matthews played against Montreal this series? Nothing. Right? That's why. Change it up. They have to make a big splash. They got to get rid of Marner. End the story.
Sometimes two guys like that need the third wheel, and that's the key. Is you got to find a third wheel that works with those two, and Hyman did not work with those two.
Well, according to our coaching staff, friggin' Thornton was the third wheel.
The only way I'd enter.
Horrible.
Go ahead, Julie.
They picked up Foligno.
I think we're all good with Thornton.
Go ahead, Julie.
You know what?
Yeah.
Hey,
Sorry,
sorry. I just got a message for Lenny that he said from Piero. He said, "Tell my brother the Leafs suck cowbells." So there you go. All right. So Julian. Yeah.
So the only way I'm entertaining a Marner trade right now is if it's for somebody like an Eichel, right? Buffalo.
Yeah, but
that's the only way I'd entertain a trade for Marner. You want one spoiled brat to like
another?
At least it frees up $1 million in cap
to a
space.
guy that can't even spell his name. He can't even spell his name, Jack Eichel, and you want that jabroni on the Leafs?
I'm saying
going
that's the only way
there,
I'd entertain a trade is for somebody of similar caliber talent. And at this point, you can't. Like I wouldn't break up the core. I'd bring back Spezza. I'd bring back Bogosian. I'd bring back Simmons, and I'd actually leverage Simmons a lot more than they did. The guy's 32 years old. He's my age. Like these guys have so much power left in them and stamina. I'd bring back Galchenyuk. I like what I saw with him. Hopefully he can keep up with that. And it's like you have $12.5 million to sign 8 players, so they're gonna have to get creative here.
For
Julian,
sure.
good point. I have to say, but I agree with Julian 100%. It's just that one big problem. Marner. Get rid of Marner and focus on your defense. Pick up a good guy, right? Let these young guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
right?
so who's going to score
You can't get rid of Marner because he had one bad playoff series. I'm sorry. Like
He's had other good ones.
He does.
Who's going to score you fucking 90 points to get you into the playoffs?
Yeah.
How can you turn away 90 points? The guy's been consistently scoring, racking up. Like Julian said, he had one or two bad playoffs. Build around them.
But what if you get a package of 2 to 3 players? Right? I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. Okay. So, guys, we're going to go around the horn one last time here to shut this down.
Sorry, Jack, I still love you, buddy.
There's frustration. Like, Okane is not sleeping here until the puck drops in September.
Pretty much.
So final thoughts here. Let's just go around the horn and just get final thoughts. So, Julian.
Final thoughts?
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel let down just like every other Leaf fan. I'm at a point where, if my wife asks me to go for a walk or watch a movie during a Leaf game, I might say yes this time. And I'm going to believe it. It's kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it, regardless of any changes they make next year. It's regardless of the success they have in the regular season, unless they're dominating and they're like number one in the running for the President's Trophy and they're smashing all the good teams anytime they play them, or I like what I see. I'm not going to invest much time until, these guys at least make it to the second round. I think there's not much they can do, right? Like they're locked in with these core guys. They've made their investments. Dubas and Shanahan, like they can't start trading these guys because they've already given them nod of approval. Hopefully they can stay healthy next year in the playoffs, and hopefully Keefe has learned his injury, his mistakes here and moves on and stop being so stubborn with how he plays his team. I think that's all you could really do in these scenarios. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Lenny.
I agree a lot with Julian about not paying so much attention to the regular season because of what happened this year. Mm-hmm. I'm a lot older than a lot of you guys on the panel today. I've been a fan for 50 years, let's say, because I'm 56 this year. My dad introduced me to the game when I was 6, and I, fell in love with the Leafs and fell again in love with the game. But what happened this year was disappointment like no other year I've ever experienced. Yeah, the years that they blew the lead 4-1 against Boston, what have you. But this year, because of the scenario, the team that they had and what have you, and how they dominated throughout the year, and then to blow it the way they did, sometimes it feels like being a Leaf fan is like being in a bad relationship, wanting it to get better, and it never does. That's what it feels like sometimes.
It just wasn't meant to be.
That was beautiful.
Going to get better. I mean, there is no other team I would cheer for.
Beautiful.
I will never cheer for another team, but I'm not going to pay attention as much as I did as years gone by next season. That's for sure. That is for sure, because it was such a disappointment, like no other year before. No other year before. So, again, if they don't come out with fire in their bellies for this coming season and to prove us all wrong, then I'm totally done with it. I'm done. It's just like you can't.
Let's go Kraken.
Yeah, seriously.
Peter.
After Lenny, that was fantastic, Lenny. That was awesome. Honestly, that relationship comment was fantastic.
Thanks, brother.
I think that was the highlight of the night so far.
Nah, thanks.
But the Leafs, I heard this a few times over the last couple of days. The Leafs are like the Yankees, lots of money, but not a lot happening. So they're richest franchise in these sports, and at the end of the day, what matters, is not happening. So, I told lots of Leaf fans before the playoffs, I'm like, guys, as soon as everyone starts getting too excited, it's not going to happen. my advice to Leaf fans out there: stay calm, don't get cocky, and just pretend it's never going to happen. Because when you least expect it, hopefully it does. But every time we get too cocky, it's even worse. So I think we just got to go into every season, hope for the worst, and see what happens. Because I'm lost. I don't know what to say anymore.
Thanks, Pete. Frank.
All right, Nick. So, you know what? At first, for me, again, maybe I think Lenny remembers this one. Alan Bester with St. Louis. I think there was a shot.
No, it was Ken Reagan in that. It was Ken Reagan.
No, it was Bester. Was it Reagan or
Reagan with the glove hand?
Through the legs. Through the legs. I think so.
Sergio Momesso?
Alan Bester, right?
No, Sergio Momesso between the legs.
I literally, like, if I wanted to cry, I would cry, right? This outcome really did hurt, right? Am I going to watch the games? Absolutely, right? I'll still tell my wife or my kids, you know what, I'm not bringing you to soccer or whatever because the Leaf game is on, right? So
and you got to finish that too for as well.
Listen, but if I was upper management, like we kind of touched base previously with Tannenbaum, there has to be a splash, or else you're going to get always a repeat. You know what? You're going to lose Matthews. Nick, like you said, he wants to go to Arizona, right? He wants to fit. He wants to get into that franchise. And you know what? We have another, 3-4 more years of him, and that's it. If you don't do it now, you got to act fast. You don't have time to be patient in this game, because what I'm seeing with all the other teams that are still in the running, they're hungry. They want it now. They don't want it in a year from now, right? And that's the game today.
All right, O'Connor too. Thank you, Frank. Fab, very, very calm. He's like in the offices right now, just making the deals.
No. Well, honestly, like, it's heartbreaking. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. One of the worst losses I've experienced in all of sports, all the teams I follow. Terrible. But after a week, the way I look at it, it's a COVID year. You know what? Let's move on. Let's go to a normal year. Let's see what these guys have to offer in a normal year. But I agree. The clock is ticking down. They won't have Matthews forever, and they better do it soon. And I you had Chris DePiero on the show, and he brought up a lot of things that you were saying, Nick, about culture, and I think they have like a losing culture, that organization. Something has to change. So, but yeah, I don't want to look at it too harshly. Let's see next year. Let's not give too much emphasis on the regular season, and let's see. And I agree with Peter. Like, we get too confident. Every year you hear the Leaf bandwagon jumpers around April. They always come out and say they're winning the cup. So
they're like the Italy soccer fans. You know what I mean? They're already thinking they're going to win the Euro, right? They haven't even played a game.
Yeah, but they've won championships in our lifetime. So
that's
you saw one too.
So it's true, but it's true. They won.
You don't remember it though.
Yeah, that's it. So, guys, it's been a pleasure. Julian, Lenny, Peter,
thanks, Nicky,
O'Connor, and Fab. Again, if you want to become a Hockey Lounge member, hit that subscribe button below. Follow us on Instagram, The Hockey Lounge. We will be back live on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. with former OHL player, university hockey player Michael Cramarosa. Don't miss it. A lot of good stories from the GTHL, from the OHL, and university hockey. Have a good night. Love hockey. Enjoy the playoffs, and we'll see you Wednesday. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
Good night,
Thanks.
guys.
Good night, guys.
Good night.